Hey guys, Kassad here. You're about to watch Thorin talk and talk and talk. But it's kind of good, I swear.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Talk to Thorin. My guest for this one is going to be Kassad, who obviously has coached teams like Renegades, EXTREMUM. More recently, you might know if you saw the Snake and Banter episode, maybe it was in the works he could have joined EG, and he had some, you could tell you weren't happy then already, because you had some pretty wild takes. I could tell you came with every barrel loaded, and you were taking shots at everyone, but you did a good job.
Bullet dodge there on EG, I think.
True.
One of those lucky things in life, I guess.
Yes. So anyway, one of the obvious angles that people will know you're always interested in, thanks to not just being an analyst, but your connection with Nico and Hunter and the people from your region, people even used to play with back in the day, is the G2 lineup. And anyone who watches, obviously, any EPL, for example, where you and Yanko on the desk, it's something you guys talk about a lot. So I wanted to do an episode with you because obviously G2 just failed the major qualifier. That's a massive deal if you think about the massive team they've got and the upgrades they've made and all the money they've spent and the fact that, let's be real, that's a project that should be number one in the world. That's the goal. Isn't just to even just make the majors like the minimum required to me. I think that's wild. So what I want to do on this topic is this. One thing I've noticed that people really get wrong is because people know you obviously have a natural bias where you're in favour of people like Nico, Hunter, etc. I've noticed people miss this actually, dude. Even you and Yanko don't always agree on those topics. It's not like you all just agree behind the scenes, like, right, we're all going to agree, like Nico's totally right about everything and like the team's great, like I've noticed you all have your own position at the same time. Obviously, you know these people personally, so you have an extra reason to care in a certain way. Whereas, for example, I don't. I'll give you an example. If Americans annoy me too much and keep going, but how do we get Cloud9 or Team Liquid to be really good? Eventually, I just tell them, I'm not American. I don't actually give a fuck. I'll tell you a reason, but I don't have to care. I can just chill back and go, I like Danish teams. There you go. Fuck you. But you obviously have a reason to care as to why, Nico should have a really good team around him. But I want to just ask that initially. If people think when we do this, you're just going to be biased and you're just everything's going to be what Nico wants or Hunter wants, that's not your take at all, right?
Nah, fuck that. The thing is, when we are on the desk and, doing an analyst work, we're getting paid to tell the people, what we think, what it is. I'm not getting paid to be a fan of whoever, right? And if they're playing bad, if they're playing me in the next tournament, just because I'm a friend, they're not going to let me through, right? They're going to play
sure,
the best.
Yes.
It's just the way it is, right? They're getting paid to do that. But the thing is, when it comes to G2, it's just such a mess there. I think they're at their lowest point so far, and they spend the most money, again, so far. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, I know, actually, what it is, that's happening right now. And when it comes, I don't really blame the players. I don't blame Hooksy. I don't blame JKS, Nico, anybody there. But I think, it's you need to find the flaws in the system that they had before and see what led to the decision that Hooksy is even there. He's not supposed to be in their team. That's number one.
Yes.
And let's examine why was that happening. I think that was happening because of the financial reasons. Because he was free, he was available. They couldn't get anybody because they couldn't pay for anybody. And why did they couldn't pay for anybody? It's just straight up, let's go for the beginning, right? We have first what they did is they renewed the contract of Hunter and Nico for another 3 years, if you remember that, which was completely unnecessary. At that point, if you know those two players, they're going to stick together. They have nowhere to go. They'll be happy to stay in G2. It was completely unnecessary to spend money there. So that decision could have waited for the new fiscal year, right? And just getting into the new budget, and you know how these things goes. So that's money spent there for no apparent reason. So they go, and this is the most ridiculous thing. They go and they buy Modesty for $600,000, which was absolutely freaking nuts.
By the way, one thing I want to ask you about that, no one ever brings this up. Everyone makes it sound, this is where I know fans don't know how markets work and how you sell things. Fans think it's like going to Walmart and buying a stereo. So you go to Walmart, Kassad, and the stereo costs $300 and you go, right, I have $300. So they don't get in when it's a negotiation. What you have to ask is this: who are you bidding against? So in that scenario, I know people said there was stories maybe Team Liquid's going to get him or so but as far as I can tell, it seems like G2 was the only person who was ever actually going to pay for him. And so I get the feeling, bearing in mind, they're not going to put him in the main team with Simple when you've got Simple. I actually think they could have gotten that maybe half that, mate. You could have got it way lower down, right? Yeah, they sort of played themselves by paying the 600k, right?
First of all, they paid for his potential. Is the guy going to be value 600k in about whatever, right? He should be right now at 600k,
yes.
But he isn't. But the thing is, is he talented? Is he super talented? Yes. Is he a sharp kid? Yes. Is he worth $600,000?
Not at that time.
Absolutely freaking no.
He never played lands. Exactly, yeah.
If I'm on that position that's buying him, I go to Navi and I say like, listen, there is 150,000 right there on the table. And Navi's going to say probably no, fuck you. This is like not acceptable, low balling, blah blah blah. So I spice it up a little bit. I tell you like, listen, I get those financial wizards over in G2, and they get their brains together. It's like, listen, do the math. I'll give you the little bit of a percentage of the next 3 major stickers, right?
Exactly.
There is a little bit of that money. And if you don't like that, let's spice it up a little bit. I'll give you 15 to 20% of his next sale. So I sell him for $500,000 somewhere down the road because I'm restructuring. You get 20% of that. So I think they would 100% Navi would accept that. 100 million percent.
I agree.
Because they were looking to unload him. Like that was obvious.
Yes.
Right. So you save the money. You get the player. Player gets where he wants to go. Navi gets their money eventually, and everybody is happy. And you still have money. This way they gave $600,000, and they got nothing for it. They got a player who is slowly developing, who is talented, who is slowly developing. It can go either way at this point. I mean, let's be honest with it, right? So that's another thing. Also,
just to explain, if someone doesn't see what you're pointing out here, if you only had spent, let's say in the end you spent 200k, and like you say, a little bit of residuals from major. In that case, you've got 400k now. That instead of getting Huxley, that's what you're going to buy, Alex, or whoever it is. Someone else who's a bigger name. Yeah, you would have the money. You don't have to spend more cash, right?
That was my ultimate point. Now we switched to JKS, right? And last time I checked, I don't know if they actually spent this much money, but I think they did, because Jason Lake, I don't think he would allow JKS to go lower than he wanted, simply because Config and Blame went for free.
It was implied, yeah. Like, first of all, I know he wasn't happy that those guys just waited till their contract ended and then just signed like with someone else. Like, what the fuck? I didn't get a chance to match. So I know he wanted, not only value, but that's also, if people don't know, this is where I think the whole Chad connection, because he has his own connection to JKS, and he was sort of being the mouthpiece of JKS saying, you can go to this team or this team. I don't think they realise. I don't think it's that JKS said, I don't want to go to Ents, their shit. I think it's that, like, Ents couldn't fucking pay that buyout. Like, it's Ents. You know what I mean? Like, that's the angle people are probably missing, is like, there's only a few orgs that would have the money to get a JKS, right?
$200,000 for him was absurdly high. The value of JKS at that point was around 75,000 at the most. Because why? He's a good player. Nobody doubts that. But let's take a look at the last year. He played one event with FaZe. He won it. Yeah, that's okay. That's there. But he didn't play a single event. Yep. Year before that, he played in Complexity. And he played bad. Let's be honest with that. Circumstances don't matter.
True.
Blame what team was like this and that, but he didn't play. So his value was, getting lower and lower and lower. So you do the same thing. Instead of 200k, you offer Complexity $75,000 straight up, instant wire, whatever. And if they're not happy, you offer them the same deal like you did with Navi. I'm going to give you like a 5%, 3%, whatever from the next team. And then we're going to end up to, maybe 150 at the
By the way, what you're saying here, which by the way is another thing that does happen in real sports, like that's something that you sometimes do in the NFL, the NBA with picks, etc., or these angles, right? One thing I want to ask, or sometimes whether the person has to pay the certain year of the contract, for example, on salary cap scenarios. Do people actually do it in CSGO though? Because what you're describing now, I think is a really good way to do it. Because basically what you're explaining is, it's not about like, will G2 have the money? Eventually they'll have all the money they want. It's about what can you use now to not be over budget? Like how can you delay part of your payment sort of to do it in, say, like you say, next fiscal year, next year, basically make it so you might even get more money later. It's like a concept. Do people actually do that in trades currently?
In CSGO, they don't do it all, I think. I have no clue.
So I get the vibe it's just about the high dollar amount at the beginning.
It's just, it's just to give me all the money now, and that's it. Otherwise, I'm not selling. And then some people, like in G2, they just pay for no apparent reason. And they don't understand the value of the player or his current market value against like what he was. It's like, put it this way, would you pay $300,000 for Breeze?
No, of course not. Even though obviously he was once very good. Yeah, sure.
Yes. Would you pay $500,000 for Zipnix?
No, of course not. Exactly.
I mean, that's we are getting it. Zipnix has been playing well for past 2 years, but 2 years in 2019, he was worth a lot because he was the best clutch player. Breeze was like on top of his game. Yep. He was demolishing. That's when his value was highest, right? Yes. That's when you would probably pay that much money. Right now, you wouldn't pay more than 50k for Breeze, and if that for Zipnix, right? You should be lucky if you get that. But it's not just that. All these like trades, 200k for JKS, 600k for the kid, the new contracts for Nico and Hunter. On top of the fact they are keeping Kenny S on the contract still because he signed for those 3 years with God knows what salary it is. Yeah. He's not even playing. I don't think he's doing pretty much anything right now besides some content that nobody even watches, I think. And on top of that, they sold Jax and Amanek for like probably pennies, if anything. So when you combined all of that, you get their financial decisions who got them to the point where they need to buy HooXi, who doesn't belong there. This guy is all right. Like, I don't doubt that he gave his best and he was good in that Copenhagen Flames. He got him to 2 majors, but those are the 2 only 1-tier events that he ever played.
Yes.
Right? And they played well. Let's not, forget that.
No, but put it this way. I'll spin it this way. In the same way you said that point about Monacy, this is a point I had on a lot of talk shows that people were shocked by because they kept doing the moron logic like you're describing of thinking of his potential and going like, but in Thorin, next year he could be like a top 10 player. It's like, yeah, but I'm buying him now when he hasn't done any lands. Like, what if he's a bust? Dude, I even said, if he's a bust, that's going to be one of the worst trades of all time. 600k for the joke is 600k is all, you only pay that for like prime device, like Nico now, Simple now, Ziwu now. You don't pay for anyone who's below basically like a minimum top 10 player right now. Like, as in they can tomorrow put him in the team, they'll frag out like that. Even what he's doing now, like you say, he might only be approaching that value now. And even that's thinking, well, if he keeps doing it, it's like right now, I don't even know that you'd put him in that sense, even though he's really good. So if you spin it on HooXi, same scenario. I'm getting sick and tired of fans not getting this because they think I hate Team Liquid, dude. Because I say, like, I don't think OC's good enough. I don't know if Nitro still is. And they're like, what do you mean? He's doing a good job. It's like, Team Liquid also supposed to be trying to be number 1. If you have Elysian Naf, it's time to go to number 1 in the world. Well, the question should be this. Who do I put with Elysian Naf that makes us number 1 in the world? So my question for G2 is the same one. It's not, is HooXi good? Can HooXi be better than Lexi B? Is HooXi doing a good job for Monacy? That all sounds good. The question is, when you have Nico and Hunter, and now if Monacy's good, and then you have JK, so you actually have, by the way, like on roll for roll, it's becoming like a super team potentially. We're supposed to try to be number 1 now. We're not trying to just be good. We're not trying to, like, semi-finals is all right, but we're trying to be number 1. We're trying to be, so the premise is, what should they have done, do you think, for IGL? Like, what angle should they be going for? Should they have broken the bank and gone for a big name?
Yes, definitely. I mean, if they didn't spend all this money and, got themselves in a position where they got how old is HooXi? 27. He never led an international team. Only got like this Danish. He understands them better. Obviously, the mentality is different. No superstar players. No ego. No nothing. No high
That's
team.
That's a problem I had right there. It's another angle people miss if they don't know sports. Dude, think how many people as coaches or IGLs were amazing. It's like being the coach or the fucking like captain of like a small football team. It's a different vibe than when you have like Real Madrid and you're supposed to win everything and you have all the biggest egos. That's a different skill set, right?
Yes, obviously. I mean, when it comes to in the matter of ego, right? Like Nico has ego.
Every good player does.
Every does, and that's what makes them so good.
Yes.
Like that's a part of him that's gonna make it. That he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best to ever touch the game. Still is, and he's gonna be for the next few years. Super good as well. So him having ego is something that you should always take into account, right? But let's get back to HooXi. They got him there. I have nothing against the guy, obviously. I mean, he did some fine work. Yeah, seems all right. But, is he the right man to do it? Absolutely not. The guy has never ran an international team in his life. Did he earn enough credit to get that chance? No. In my opinion, absolutely not.
No, of course not.
So that's like how they got into that point. That's the real question. Like, how did we get into the point where we had to get HooXi into our team? That's all those financial decisions where we went back and like contracts, people getting, overpaid. We get like these buyouts, crazy buyouts, paying the potential instead of the value. That all comes down to the people in the organization, whoever made those calls. I don't know if it was Carlos or somebody on the board of directors or whoever is in charge in that, but it was a mistake after mistake after mistake. And they got them into a position where they have no money.
Another thing as well, by the way, dude, look at the timing of when they got HooXi. They put themselves into that window when there's no one available almost, minus a couple of names you'd have to gamble on. Remember, this is one thing I hate about the Vitality and G2 moves is you all made your big decisions in the perfect time at the end of the year, where it was the end of the season and you could get, everyone was available. There was contracts there. That's why they went for the big signings in Vitality and G2. Like, the point is you have to also time it. You have to have a plan. You can't just do like they did. Their plan was sort of like, I mean, I think it's mad sad, by the way, because even if you actually, I'll say this straight up, if you commit to someone like Alexi B, in my opinion, you commit to him for 1 year. Like, you're like, we're going to play 2 majors, we're going to play a bunch of tournaments. If it fails, it fails. But I'm not just going to bail halfway through, because actually you can do this as well. You throw away Alexi B. Yeah, maybe it didn't work out. Maybe he didn't have the right philosophy. Maybe there was clashes. But what have you replaced him with? Like, you've actually started over. You've reset the whole project. Started with a weaker IGL. And now what? Like, now we're going to be better than that. If anything, like, the level isn't even that different, dude. That's the other thing. Because Pro League's so spaced out, people got so high on that group stage performance, dude. And they thought, they acted like they were already winning tournaments. Like, people were talking about Huxley, like he's won shit. It's like, you know, Alexi B was in the Katowice final. You know, he was actually at the major. You know, dude, this contrast is whack, innit? Like, I've yet to see that's even going to be better than the Alexi B team.
The message that I got after that Pro League group stage when they got to beat Navi, you know, the bad Navi at that point, like they played bad. And
it was FaZe they played.
Are you sure? I think it was Navi 2-1 they beat.
Oh, in the playoffs, yes.
Yeah, in the playoffs,
yes.
Yeah. And it's like the messages that I got is like, you know, what about now? Hooksy this, okay. G2 now, what do you have to say now? It's like, people, are you fucking serious? Like, you know, what are you, unless you win a fucking title and start beating titles in a row and people consider you a, you know, a challenger for the actual championship, sure. Then, you know, we can talk. But unless you're, you know, just beating teams in the groups and, you know, just not qualifying for the major, there's something obviously wrong. And again, I don't blame the players whatsoever. They're set up for that. They're set up for that by bad decisions in the system, right? So if I'm whoever I am in that G2, I don't even know who runs the CSGO in that team, in that org. I have no idea. Is it Niak? Is it board of directors? I have no fucking clue.
As far as I know, obviously now it seems likely, but it was Carlos who had a lot of say in the decisions. But you'll notice there's another thing I'm sure we're going to talk about, so let's bring it in as a topic now, and you can choose if you want to pick it up later on now. The other angle is this. If I sign someone like EXTREMUM, right, even though there wasn't that many lands, so I don't think he actually deserves this status yet, he was being treated like a Zonic, like the French Zonic, and he's the guy who's going to control your team. And remember, we all give him all that credit in Vitality, not only like how did he deal with Ziwu, but then how did he transition from Alex to Apex? And Apex wasn't even supposed to be an IGL, so like, wow, great job. Then there was that like Nevera thing where like temporarily it was working, then he took him out. Like, he seemed like he was doing a lot, right? If I bring him into G2, it is to give him the keys and go, there you go, sir. Like, listen, I'm going to fire your fucking ass if after a year it goes bad, but that's why I'm giving you the keys. There you go. Do what you did in Vitality for me now. Well, if you read those interviews with that guy around this time period when the players are changing and he gets Huxley in, dude, the interviews read almost like he's sort of like, yeah, I think I should actually like have some control and say like, what? Like, you should have been in control the whole time. Like, who was? You mean you were just a guy telling him, like, good job? Like, the joke is, it's like this G2K on it. Like, it's his job just to go, like, good job, guys. Nice. Like, what was he doing? Like, who's in control?
Yes, man. The thing is, like, you don't accept the job unless you get the keys. Like, I'm telling you, there is no, like, did you see the Redeem Team, the movie that came out? It's like, you know, the guy says, like, listen, there is no committees, there is no nothing. I'm the one who's going to be, you know, controlling all of this thing. I'm going to be the one picking the players. I'm going to be the one picking the coach. And that's how it's going to work. If I'm EXTREMUM, I'm asking for that, right? Because I have my, you know, that's how I did it in Vitality, and it worked. That's the winning recipe. If you want to do the same success, give me this contract, give me this blank check. I'm going to put my salary on it, and I'm going to, you know, do my thing, and you're going to be the best. You're going to be the contender for the championship. If he doesn't have the keys, then, you know, it's his own fault then.
I mean, I'll give you an example that to show that you've actually put your money where your mouth is. If people don't know, Kassad willingly stepped down from that Cloud9 project. Not because, like, you know, he knew it'd all fail, but when he realised, like, he joined that team in the same way Henry did as a GM. He joined that team, didn't you, Kassad? To be like a coach like that, to have this roster and to live and die off it. So when you realised, like, look, with the way it's going with Alex and what's going on with the players, I'm not going to get that control. You were smart. You didn't just stick around and let that make it be, because everyone forgets you were even in that team now, dude. You played it well. Yeah. So as a result, you didn't have to be at the end and have everyone go like with Henry, like he's a fucking idiot, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, you actually, you proved you believe this, right?
I can't be there, like I told this to Henry as well, I can't be there just fucking, you know, getting the salary on the first and just nodding my head is like pretending that nothing wrong is happening. Fuck that. I have enough money. You know, I can always make more money. It's fine. So I don't want to be just this guy who's just doing this. It's like, yeah, then the problems are not there. And then all of a sudden we all implode and we all get fired. I would rather step away and maybe somebody else can take the job. Maybe they can do better. I'll find myself something else, right? So it wasn't for me. But the thing is, like, if EXTREMUM didn't have that control, then what the fuck did he sign? Like Like, was the things told him that they didn't like honor at the end of the year or during the year? I don't know. But the thing is, like, if I'm somebody who is there in G2 now that needs to make some decisions, right? I'm not waiting a day, because you need to start now. Because I'm calling, if EXTREMUM is staying, I believe he is, but he's saying that I'm calling for a meeting in 3 days after we lost. It's like, listen, I need some answers right now. Like, what happened with JKS, for example? He is supposed to be ropes to face kind of move. He's supposed to be that guy. Like, he wasn't who's responsible for that? Is it him not playing well? Is it the system? Is it the, what's happening? Is it the coach? What's going on, right? And then obviously with Hooksy and then with Nico as well. And then we go into start like thinking about 2023, 2024. Not because the blasts that are coming, they don't mean shit.
No. The major's basically it for the year.
It's just a little bit money, and that's it, right? So you're thinking about 2023, how to get to Paris, 2024, how to be the best and stay the best. And let's start working today. What is the 14th of October? Today we start working on the plan. I bring my coach to my headquarters and we start developing a plan it's not going to be like a 1-day plan that we're going to think of shit, right? We sit there for a few weeks. We like get every day, like think about different strategies, see what the budget is, what can we afford, who do we let go, what needs to be done, and make a proper plan for 2023, 2024 and see what can be done, see how can we get back on the top, because right now this is completely embarrassing. I think it goes way up to the org. I don't think the players, obviously they didn't play their best. Obviously JKS could have done better. Nobody disagrees there, right? But the thing is, like, what led them to that very point? And we spoke about these financial fiascos they had. It got them to the point where they need to get Hooksy because he was free and available, instead of getting which is IGL is a crucial part of your team. He needs to be the one deciding like what's going on and how his game is going to be played and everything. You listen to Nico, you listen to Hunter, you listen to all these people, but that's all you do. You just listen to their voices. At the end of the day, the coach needs to decide, the GM needs to decide, and what the strategy we go in. That's how we play. And it's going to be much easier on the players too, because they're going to be focused only on what they need to do. It's their job to play the fucking game, not to think about who are they going to replace or who is going to be there or not in the next 3 or 6 months. Do your job, stay in your lane, play your game. I'll be the one who's going to be deciding who comes, who goes, how we play and shit like that. So I believe like it all comes down to those flaws in the system, those leaks in G2's organization when it comes to like spending money and making the bad moves. They have been doing it for a while. Remember the time when Amanek was the one opening? Like, what the fuck was that?
Oh, mate, that was mental, because you'll have seen a lot of our fellow analysts who were on desks. Man, the way they carried water for that narrative, like, if he can just get 10% better, it's like, you're saying, can a player who's played for years, was never even the primary AWP, was a hybrid AWP, if he can just get 10% better at tier 1, and then go against, like, simple and Z, like, that's impossible, mate. Like,
never.
That's an imaginary storyline. Because I agree. That was one of those examples where, like, it's a bit like the resin nip one where they're making him the AWPer now. Look, you can do it for like a month or two if we're waiting to get the AWPer. That can't be the long-term solution. That can't be in like 2 years he's going to be an AWPer, because anyone who looks at like device, like that's like maybe a 1 out of 1 ever where you can just become an AWPer only and be the big. That's the outlier, mate. The rest aren't going to do that. I agree that Amanek one, they sat on that for way too long. That was way too long. Because that's another thing fans have now as a take. Oh, it kills me inside, dude. Right? The take fans have that goes, but at the end of last year, G2 was really good. So they should have stuck with that lineup. I'm like, oh my God, that's the worst take ever. Like, the miracle was that they made the final of that major. The fact they almost made it 3 maps against Na'Vi, that is incredible to me. Like, props to every player on that team. Because they had no business even being in that final. And there's no way they should have been able to win that final. Like, that team, that was the best they ever could have done. And they didn't win. Like, I can't even believe people still think that. Like, because remember, we're not playing the same teams now that were in last year. Everyone changed rosters. So I have a quick question if I want to spin this way. Obviously, on the Nico angle, like I say, people are going to think it's going to be dead spicy. I think it's going to be less spicy than people think, but I think we've got some interesting takes. So here's what I want to ask you about Nico. What people don't understand is this. I don't think Nico picked every player in his teams and is the GM of the teams. Not least because, by the way, logically, in teams like FaZe Clan and G2, if that's the case, then fire whoever the GM is, because they didn't do their job. And what the fuck are they doing at the star player pick? So, but my problem is, it goes both ways. I actually agree with you. If I'm as good as Nico is, I used to say the same thing about Simple. You should have a massive ego. Not in a way where you ruin your teammates. Obviously, that's fucked up. But in terms of, like, you should actually, for real, this is the area of, like, people like Michael Jordan I do fuck with. The angle should be like, I know what I can do. So give me the ability through teammates, coach. Let me do my work. Let me go to work and I will carry this game. I will win you the major. But as a result, I'm going to need things like maybe I need a certain type of IGL. Maybe I need a different teammate. Maybe this guy needs a different role in our team. You should be able to have that opinion. So the one problem I have with Nico is this. Because he didn't decide these things and he didn't have the final say, he tries to make it sound like he just sat back like, well, it would be rude for me to say my opinion. It's like, if that's true, then that's whack, dude. Like, you should have your opinion. You should absolutely be telling Carlos when you fail now, like, bro, this can't continue. Like, look, I can't make the decision of who you're going to get, but here's what I would say. Let's get this guy out. Let's get this guy in. And then obviously you take that on board. Like, I'm kind of on both ends. I actually want you to have a say. I just don't want it to be obviously that the org then just does whatever you say automatically. But you should definitely have input if you're as good as them.
Absolutely, because the team is built around you and it's going to be there for the next multiple years, you and Hunter. But if you're Nico, you just, like, after this defeat, you take a little bit of a, time to take a breath, to catch a breath and analyze and, process the things that happened in the past 2 months, including to this major, and how do we let ourselves to lose to 1 win and Gamer Legion in a best of 3. It's like, it makes no sense. So something went wrong. So I sit down with XTAS, I sit down with Niak and whoever is deciding on the GM side, if that person even exists. And I talk to them like, listen, this is what I think happened. This is what I need maybe because I want to win this and that. And you express if you have a plan, just go with it. Just explain to the people above, why do you want this? Why do you think that's what? And if they listen, they listen. If not, they should listen, definitely. If they're going to do the thing that you want, that's a different matter, right? But they should listen to you. Yeah.
You're not leaking anything here. He's not giving his take on what Nico actually thinks. But put it this way, as an outsider, there's no way Nico said, get me Hooksy. Like, it must be, maybe he could have said, all right, I guess we could do that if, like you say, we haven't got any money, we've only got these 2 people we could pick for, we'll get the hook. Maybe you say, yeah, then. But, like, there's no, like, I don't want people to spin it that, like, Nico was like, I hate Alexi B, so bring me Hooksy. There's no way, as much as he might have done some silly decisions in the past where he wanted some washed up players, that was years ago, guys. I don't believe he actually wanted Hooksy. I'm pretty sure he wanted way bigger names than that.
No, I think it also comes down to the people like above who are making these decisions. Like, they don't have to always blindly follow what Nico or anybody else says. Like, if you have a competent person right there who's going to make the right decision, who understands the dynamic of the team, what type of personality, what type of play style, the certain player we need for Nico to play his best, and then that comes to that the coaching team that we discussed before. But it's like, you listen to him, you see like what's happening, and you listen to that GM person, and you make the best possible strategy to get the best possible players for the money that you have, right? And they obviously have money. So it's a kind of a teamwork, but at the end of the day, the GM, the guy who is running the CSGO, somebody competent, again, he needs to be the one, in charge of he needs to give the green light or the red light to whatever is going to happen next, right? But that takes time a little bit. Obviously, I think some of the decisions were made like a little bit too late for G2. Some of it too rushed. We spoke about, like, let's say they didn't get, Monessi. They didn't get 600. They didn't want to pay. Dexter was right there. He's right there.
Yep.
And he would cost what, 100K? 150 tops, because he wasn't going to sit in Spirit, and Spirit was looking to get rid of him for any kind of money. So he's equally good. He brought an OG to a next level instantly, right? They were just a joke team. Now they're a little bit more serious team. Simply because of him. We saw how one player can change the whole dynamic of the team. We saw what Yekindar did for Liquid.
For sure.
For Robs, what Robs did to for FaZe, right? Even in Mouse, for fuck's sake. Like, one player can make a lot of difference if you make the right move. But the biggest question for me is like JKS thing. Like, for me, that was the right move. Obviously they overpaid, but I want to know what happened. And I was thinking about it, and they always say that the IGL, that's where G2, I think, made a mistake again with Hooksy. The IGL Hooksy was always like about a loose type of play style, and something like that they like doing whatever they want. JKS is not that player. I'll tell you that. He is not the player who likes to roam around, floating around on the map, doing the things. He likes settings. He likes things planned. He likes his pathways. He likes to know that, flashes are coming at that timing. He likes to know that he's going to having, situation where he needs to close the round. That's how his mind works. That's how he plays the best. And I can tell you that for 100%, And coming into the system where everything is like loose and like free flow, that's not for him. Maybe that's the reason why he didn't play well. that was my take when I was like looking at the game.
Yeah. What about this
No,
then? Because the other angle I would ask is then, right, this isn't my narrative. This is just what fans and interviews claim, right? Obviously, the whole angle they claim as to why Aleksandar didn't work and Huxley had to come in is because he was too structured, and then Huxley's going to be more loose, like you say. And people implied that's what's going to make Nico be at his best, right? First of all, I will just say, if you're a fan, these guys aren't robots. Like, they're not perfect. Like, even if someone's structured, it doesn't mean it's that type of structure that you want. If someone's loose, they're not all identically equally good. Like, first of all, it's not as simple as that. It's not like, A didn't work, so try B. It's like, maybe it's a different type of A you needed. But the question I would have is that, do you think that in a team that has, like, Nico and Hunter, do they want a more loose IGLs? Would that be your take?
I think Nico likes playing more loose. Hunter, so. I think he's like 50-50, but he likes the thing that I was trying to explain to everyone in my teams, and basically everyone every time we talk about coaching, like, you can have so many plays and you can have defaults and you can have all this shit that's that's preset, but at the end of the day, I like my players like to read the defense, for example, because I think what's important, if you take a look at every single round of every match that has been ever played in CSGO, the defense is always going to give you something. The CT side is always, they can't cover it all. They're always, it's every moment going to give you something. And if you have a smart player with good instincts, you're going to base your game a little bit more towards him so he can have those reads and use the defense against them, right? So because they're always going to have a gap, they're always going to give you something. So if you're smart enough, you're going to read that. If you're not smart, if you're a less good player, then you're just going to run into a stack. You're going to go like through the smokes. You're going to play like very poorly and make many mistakes. But if you have smart players like Nico is, like Hunter is, let's speak about G2 only. Obviously, there is a lot more. But the thing is, like, the defense will always in every single round, 15 rounds on your T side, the CT will always give you something. And that's the philosophy that I'm always going with. Can you read it? I don't know. If you're smart enough, you probably can. If not, then maybe you're going to lose every time, right? So Nico and Hunter, they like playing loose, but they also like structure too, a certain type of defaults, very like openers, finishers, whatever. But if you see an opening, you go for it. You forget the call. Fuck the call. If there is an opening, if there is a clear space and a clear opportunity for Nico to have an isolated 1v1 with somebody who is lesser player than him, I'll take that 10 out of 10. If Nico gives me 7 wins out of 10 battles, I'll take it every time, right? Because he's most likely going to win those 7 battles against the player who is, weaker than him in 10 situations. So it doesn't matter if the other guy has a positional advantage or anything. He's just going to win it because he's better, sharper. That's it, more confident. He's a fucking superstar. So that's what I would lean on instead of like fully on, But that's like I guess that would be a topic for the coaching video. Sure. But the thing is, like, I feel like there is a disconnect there when it comes to JKS, and I think he was like misused a little bit and misunderstood in a way that he likes to play, because nobody asked me about JKS at any point from G2, including Nico and Hunter, when they were trying to get him. Nobody asked
There's
me.
Another thing people seem to have missed. Everyone's gotten the weirdest take ever on JKS and Call. They think either that he just went there and he was put in the superstar roles, he's just shit. That's one take. Or the other one is like, it's just because like Blame F and Cold Zero were really passive and they were lurkers too. It's like, that's sort of true, but in this sense, from all the players I've talked to, because I've talked to people who were on Renegades, people who were even in the Call team, they basically told me, sometimes on camera, but off camera, this was all the time. They told me also the other issue was, it's not like when he was in Renegades, he was like a big ego player. Like, actually, he wasn't what we were saying earlier. He wasn't the guy like, I am the superstar player, so I have to lurk on. It's like, if anything, the rest of the team was like, dude, you should do that. Like, that's where you're at your best. I'm sure you were telling him, like, let's set you up so you can close out these rounds, put you in positions with resources, because in that team, he was clearly the best player. So to me, as far as I can tell, when he went to Call, maybe even because he's on a big salary and he's on this big team with big names, he was just the guy giving up roles. He was the guy, I guess I can do that. It's like, I feel like, mindset. Yeah, so I feel like if they don't know that in G2, they might think, well, we're giving him what he wants. Like, you don't know what he wants. Like, you'd have to ask in a very different way with that guy, right?
The thing is, like, back in Renegades, 100 Ts, whatever, we had 2 individual like plays, like set like for 2 players. One was aggressive for Jakem because he was that type of player. I made like a fucking 50 plays for him, and he's like, we call it always a Yod play because we call him Yod, Jakem Yod, whatever. So it was like, let's run a Yod play, and he knows exactly, so he's just running off alone somewhere just to create chaos. And then we had like plays specifically made for Justin, like where he would be the one be the last, stay the last in a 1v2, 1v1, and everybody was happy with it, including JKS, because we know the odds of him winning those rounds are much greater than him losing those rounds, and that's just play with the numbers, and I can I'm confident in his ability, and that's fine. I'm risking maybe 1-on-2, but I'm always believing that he can win it, right? Because he's that type of player. He was top 20 twice in a row, and he has the skills. We saw it before on LAN especially. So I think obviously, I'm going to drop a little bit of a leak here. When before Spinks went to Vitality and JKS went to G2, Zonix straight up openly asked me, listen, can you tell me a little bit more about JKS, what kind of player he likes, how he does with utility, everything. So, he asked me and I answered the best way I could. They went for Spinks for different reasons. I don't know why. But from G2, nobody ever asked me anything. Or I don't think they asked anybody else from that previous lineup what he prefers, what he's best. They just put him in there playing this little loose style with ochs, right? Where he doesn't really kind of get the best out of him on those loose type of situations. He likes things set, but that's just JKS, but it's not his fault.
No, I just thought it would be an interesting detail.
It's just
an
interesting point.
It's also why the thing if people don't get. That's why I made the point about the ego before. Superstar players should have the ego that goes along with their skill set. In some ways, I almost feel like JKS has the mindset of just like a fucking supportive element, but he has the skills to be fucking super good. That's almost like the battle he's going to have in his career. And in this team, if they just leave him like that, he's probably going to keep being misused, right?
JKM, for example, was always ready to die for JKS. In any situation, they're 2v2. He doesn't ask a single question. He's ready to die because JKS can deliver the clutch every time. And he wasn't even the only thing that kind of pissed JKM off, for example, was people not trading and they were not close enough, shit like that. But he was always happy to die for JKS. If JKS gets those situations and gets put in those type of scenarios where he's the one closing the rounds properly, not in this way they played so far. If he gets a little bit more work with the coach or analyst or assistant coach or whoever to get him into this more set kind of pieces in environment, I think he's going to do much better. He's going to have more numbers. I feel like that he is a little bit floating right now, not really knowing what's happening, simply because they're playing that little loose-ish style.
What do you think, though? Because here's the other angle as well. When I do analysis on talk shows, one of the other, and similar when you're on the desk, one of the other problems you have is this. Right, if we're talking about analysis before this match, I have to look at the players they've got. I can't go, well, they better get this guy out and that guy. It's too late. It's the match about to begin. I have to look at what have they got now. And then, so I did make the argument when they signed ochs, in the context of who he has, he is doing his job. He isn't a good fragger. He knows it, by the way. Actually, I can even appreciate that. You can tell by the way he plays, he knows his shit. So what he does essentially is he knows I have to get Monassy's frags. I have to get these people going. And within the context of what he's been given, I think he's doing the best he can. The problem is, I agree with you. If the G2, why is he ever there? Why is he still here now? And why is there not a way that we're trying to figure out how to get the guy in who's going to make us literally number one? That we're going to be better than FaZe, better than Na'Vi, because that's the issue I have, right? It is clear that skill-wise, he is a very bad player.
Yeah, I agree 100%. He shouldn't be there, and he can go back to Danish lineups and make another run on the major. He's not going to be far off. He understands that market. He understands those players. He understands how to work. They listen to him. Even that's even better, right? They respect him. But putting him in this situation was just a bust for him. Right, and then if I'm G2 right now, I'm thinking what the hell should I do now? How much money do I have in 2023? What is the budget? I go to those financial wizards there, those experts and rocket scientists. Shout one time to the EG squad. The thing is and see how much money do I have, and actually how to use it the best way to get us back on top. Because right now, what do they have to look forward to? Nothing, just the blast events, and that's it. That's so demoralizing. I have to imagine that right now that they're going to be watching the major. That's going to be a big drop in morale and confidence and everything else that's coming with it. Because I've been in those situations where we try to qualify for a major, we're all hyped up, then we fail, and then I know exactly what happens after that event. And how the things feel, and how people start looking for themselves more rather than for the team. It's it's a natural thing, right? So somebody needs to step up in that team, whether it's the coach or the GM or the freaking CEO, and just make the right plan and just push them into that direction and make them fucking work. Like straight up from tomorrow if needed, right? Just focus on what's to come. If you go in Paris and win the major, nobody's gonna fucking remember that you've bombed out of this one. Nobody's gonna fucking care. At that point, you're gonna be the best team in the world. Everybody is gonna be talking about you. You're gonna be considered the best player, best team. You're gonna win the titles, and everything's gonna be fine. But you need to start to work from somewhere. You just can't keep just pretending like there's no problem. Find the problem, identify the shit that you have been doing. Cut the losses and move on. Just make a plan and move the fuck on.
I want to put you on the spot a little bit here. So here's the thing. Obviously, we are talking about a few months ago, but potentially, like you say, you can still correct the mistake now. There's actually a famous quote, by the way, that says essentially, if you make a mistake and then you refuse to correct it, you have made another mistake. It's a great fucking line, isn't it? Like, you don't have to accept, like, well, sorry, I just fucked it up before. Well, then, if you're G2, you can fix that. You've got money. You can trade players as well, by the way. You can get money for them. So my question will be this, right? Is there a player as an IGL you think they should have gotten? And if not, since as we say, it is G2. Is there someone out there, maybe they could even be in a team now? We're just speculating, obviously. We're not saying this person has to break the contract. What type of person should they be bringing in? Or do you have names that you would want?
For example, I said this in a tweet and people got me a lot of shit for it, but I'm going to say it again. I offered basically two options for G2 publicly to fix their freaking team, right? One of them to get Glaive, which is
it's bold.
People.
Sure.
Yeah, preaches. There, people are talking like that. That's an interesting thing. When I mentioned Glaive, people are like, yeah, he's washed up, 2 years, nothing. Right. All the bullshit. It's like they forgot he's the greatest IGL that ever was. Won fucking 20 titles, 4 majors. The guy knows how to fucking IGL, and he's not old, right?
No,
he's not that old.
No.
So, and he understands the mid-round calling. He understands the stress. Remember the shit they did in Australis in the back in the day where they were like the best. Remember the mid-round calls? It was always like on point. Yes, he had Magisk, but you cannot tell me that Magisk is a better secondary caller than Nico in any way, right? So get him there, and see what happens. Obviously now with Australis being whatever, I know you're a big fan of them, but the thing is like. You can get him, right? Maybe. I don't know. He signed a contract for 3 years, but there is always a price. Everybody is on sale.
I'll even say this: as much as people think that there isn't, because by the way, that's one thing I also did fuck with Carlos. It's not a joke. He really did try asking Na'Vi how much for Simple. He did go to Vitality. How much was it? Now, yeah, obviously they're going to tell you sort of like put another zero on, dickhead, like to just tell you to fuck off. But you have to at least ask, because here's the thing: every now and then there might be a 1% chance they might go. You know what? I can't admit to you. Maybe I'm in financial trouble. Maybe I don't think this lineup can work. Because that's the thing about the Astralis move, right? The one thing people won't get is they'll think, but they just signed him to that huge deal. He's the face of Astralis. Yeah, but here's the other thing. If you look at how Astralis does deals right now in esports, they clearly don't have a lot of money, or they do not want to spend money. So if you came, here's the difference. That might be the one, Kassad, where if you came and you really want to be ballsy, that's where you pay like 400k for him. Dude, that might be worth it, because you're doing it for the next 3 years, right?
Absolutely. The thing is, like, let's put yourself in a Glaive's position right now, today. Like, does he want to play? Like, look what Config did, and how he got himself into trouble and eventually expelled from the team. Zipnix is not the player that he was anymore. Definitely, everybody, and he knows it. I think.
Yep.
They don't have the offer. There is a rumor about device and not device, and even if device returns, who knows what kind of device are we gonna get?
Yep.
Are we gonna get the old device or the 2 years later device? Like, because he hasn't played competitive over a year. Like, it's a problem. So put yourself in a Glaive position. Like, do I still want to be here? Like, this thing is falling apart for me as far as I can see.
Yes. I bet it's super demotivating. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still good at what I do. I'm still motivated.
That's an angle I think people are missing as well. Because it's one of the reasons why when I say some of the other names, and by the way, people like Snappy and Carrigan have made me look like a fucking genius on this. For IGL, it isn't like star player. Like, you know what? If I said, like I used to, Shox could still be the best. Like, that is delusional now. I am just being a Shox fan, and I just liked him too much 7 years ago. IGL is different, guys. IGL is the role where, sure, your individual skills could degrade, but your brain, the part you used to play the game, only gets better. It's like being a chess player. You're getting better and better and better if you go up. Doesn't matter how good you are at 18, and when you're at 28, you're going to be even better, aren't you? You're going to be a super genius. So I think for certain IGLs, they're even the players I'm willing to really take out of the fucking trash heap and bring a guy back. Like people like Glaive did originally in Astralis, people like Carrigan have to come back to FaZe. Like, I think you can gamble on these way better than other players.
That's the final of my point when it comes to the IGL. And people were saying the same shit about Snappy. When Snappy joined I don't know what was the lineup before. And
Contact.
Yeah, and then eventually into ends, I was like, oh, fuck this guy. He's so washed up. He's so shit. He should never be there. And then all of a sudden ends is fucking top 5, playing the finals of Pro League, semifinals of the major, qualifying as a Legends right now with the same Snappy. So what the fuck is the problem? That doesn't apply to Snappy, but it applies to Glaive, who won 4 fucking majors and 20 plus titles and had the best tier in Counter-Strike. Consider for me, he's one of the best, if not the best the IGL has ever played.
I'll even say this as well. It could even be true, by the way, maybe because all those years online, when, again, if you're a guy who's in the final or semi-final of every tournament, you don't give a shit about an online tournament. How could you? It wouldn't make sense to care. It would be like being someone going from playing the World Cup to having to play five-a-side football. You're not going to try your hardest. You're going to lose loads of games. So my analogy on Glaive would be this. Dude, I'll tell you what tomorrow will decide if Glaive ever had anything left in the tank. If you tell him you can have Prime Nico, mate, he'll just come, like, if either he's got nothing and he's going to do nothing immediately, or he would be so motivated, because there's another thing people don't seem to get about those Astralis guys. When they were all together, there didn't have to be any infighting because they were winning together, and Zonic was the GOAT coach, and Glaive was the GOAT IGL, and Device had the most titles and MVP. When they split apart, dude, I even saw this when, that's why I think Device said all that shit in that Nip video. They all want to prove separately, like, it was me, I'm the guy, or I was the best, like, well, I wasn't just a team, only. So you don't think Glaive wants to prove that and win without Device maybe, and win without fucking Zonic? Of course he does. And if he could do it, by the way, someone like Nico's your fucking dream ticket to do that. It's like Phil Jackson. Everyone used to say, you only won because you had Michael Jordan. So he was like, right, I'll go get some other players then. The joke is they still said that about those players, but that's just fans for you know what I mean?
He goes to fucking Lakers, wins the title with Kobe and Shaq. Like, it's ridiculous, right? The thing is, like, obviously he didn't do so well in the Knicks, but whatever, that's besides the point. But the thing is, like, when it comes to Glaive, you know, just imagine the impact that he would have in Nico, and like the confidence that he would bring there, and the experience and everything that he learned throughout all his years, good and bad, right? So he can deal with the bad shit and he can bring the good shit as well. So, and then Nico, and the both ways, it would be like two-way street where Nico is trusting in Glaive completely. How would that boost Glaive's confidence and his, you know, in-game knowledge and in-game, you know, the mind boost would that be for Glaive? Coming from Nico and Hunter and other players. And obviously, is Monesi Device? No. But can he be the Device, the new Device, consistent? Absolutely, yes. The kid is amazing. Is he still there? Is he there yet? No. But the thing is, like, that would be just one option for them to get there. The other one is, like, people gave me a lot of shit for this one too on Twitter. I said, like, Hunter can be the IGL. I can tell you that right now, and I can guarantee you with 100%. You spend 10, 15, 20 minutes tops talking to Hunter about Counter-Strike and the game and you know how you want to run your game and things in game, and you will immediately realize that he can do it. He definitely can do it.
By the way, a little thing I think we should tie that into, because people are going to think, obviously, when someone hasn't been in an IGL, traditionally that can be a really bad move. The reason why I think in your case it's an interesting angle is that's what you did with Azza. Remember, you got Nifty originally, and at the time, everyone would have told you Azza is just an entry player who is skilled with an AK, so they would think, oh, it's like Apex, he could never be an IGL. Like, dude, he became a pretty fucking good IGL when he swapped over.
Look at Apex. Apex is a prime example, right? Azza was good as well, but, you know, it wasn't like a high profile like Apex is, right? So look what Apex is doing. They won fucking Pro League. They're like one of the contenders right now in the major. People are going to think of them seriously coming into the Rio. Definitely you're going to be looking at them. You're going to be one of the contenders. Nitro wasn't an IGL, was it? You know, he was also aggressive player, you know, behind the leash and in front of a leash back in the day. So why couldn't Hunter do it? Like, people are just like a little bit, you know, blinded by some things, and they don't understand. Obviously, they don't know, you know, they see what they see on the screens when they play matches, in the interviews and the videos like this, but they don't understand what's actually going on other than, you know, that you would understand if you talk to the player, right? If you have the initial like conversation and talk to them and see how they actually think about the game and how they see the game. So I can see that happening. You know, I think that could work.
It's an interesting approach, because here's the other reason why that's not a terrible idea. It doesn't cost any money. Like, we can do that tomorrow. We've got that guy signed for 3 years, so that's the reason why it might be worth the shot. And I'll say this as well. One of the few criticisms, because you notice again, people also think I hate Hunter, because when Nico was fucking the shit last year, Hunter was like good, but he wasn't the same player he is this year, where his stats were way higher, he was looking way better. So what my problem with Hunter is, the joke is, if people think I think Nico's too egotistical, I think Hunter's not egotistical enough. Like, I'd love to have his skills, and I'd go fucking mad, mate. I'd be trying to be. The joke is, I'd be like electronic. I'd be like, right, you and me, we're going to race for the MVPs every fucking tournament, mate. We're going to wreck them all. I almost feel like Hunter's suited to be more of a team player in that sense. So maybe IGL's the role for him.
Yeah, maybe it could be. It could be like a decent. Not a decent. It would be a good shot for them to get somebody aggressive, like Yekindar type of player, aggressive. Like Jakem, maybe a little younger version of Jakem, right? Maybe somebody who is like 23, 24, somebody who is super aggressive to fill that entry role, and then they would be unstoppable.
By the way, isn't that the easiest role to recruit for in Counter? That is the FPL players. You just go out and get some guy who likes to run in with the good AKM, and you say, "Great job, mate. I've got exactly the mission for you." You run in like that. You don't even have to be the big brain. You just shoot people.
I'm gonna flash for you. We're gonna be behind you. Just go in and do your thing.
Yes.
Simple. Yekindar does exactly that. He just runs everywhere. He's entering every place. He's confident as fuck, and he gets the job delivered. You have a Liege following up. You have OC, who is delivering the op. He was good in the playoffs of Pro League. He was especially good in that playoffs, and he has the skill. So it works, right? So get somebody aggressive, get Hunter to IGL, or get Nico to IGL and Hunter to secondary. It's going to be fine as well, and it's going to work. 100%. It's going to work better than this. That's for sure. I guess it can get any worse than this. But the thing is, like, yeah. But the thing is, like, there are options for them, But right now, it's all a matter of who is in charge there, what are they thinking, who are they going to listen, how much money they have. It's like a little bit of a mess. I really want to see what's going to happen, to be quite honest with you.
Right, what about this then? Because another thing I want to ask about is, like you say about the Monacy angle, the issue is he's gotten really good after the Huxley move and the player break and stuff, but the main issue they have in that team is you did basically buy him as though he was already simple. He's supposed to just win every tournament now. So one thing I actually noticed in Pro League was, this is why that discussion about structure was quite interesting to me. I almost feel like he's a player that would benefit from more structure, mate. Because I noticed, because he comes from being in that Na'Vi team, where people don't know that Na'Vi team wasn't even that good. He was just like the star of the team. And they did let him play like he was simple, like do whatever the fuck you want, seemingly like you could bait if you want, you can go in, like you can choose when you go in. One thing I've noticed about him as a player, if you just look at the Frag movie clips, you're going to think he's already the best. But the area where being young and inexperienced, he hasn't quite gotten to the level where the Nikos, the Zeus, they already have this, is if you put him in like a late game scenario, like a 1v2, and it's in like, let's say like the fucking semi-finals of a tournament, like a LAN tournament semi-finals, he will sometimes do like the amateur move where it's like you just hold and you think the guy's going to peek and give you a free kill, and he doesn't, and he hides and he plays like, you're playing against in the final there, Magus, or when you played Vitality, right, you play Magus and Dupree, they're smart, they're going to use the timer against you, they're going to use the bomb against you, like you're not going to get those free kills, so you actually have to know in those scenarios like when to go psycho mode, as it were, and I don't know if he's got that gear at the moment.
Well, the thing, that's the question for the coach, right? That's the job for the coach. You got there at the beginning of the year. You got this player. I don't know if you wanted him or not, but you got him anyway. He's super talented. It's on you to figure out what kind of player he is. Like, does he like structure? Does he like to run around? Like, where he's like, flaws and advantages, and see how you can use them, or just minimize the flaws and fix them or whatever. It's your freaking job right there. That's why when it comes to the coaching, that you cannot bother your coach to deal with fucking anti-eco rounds or fucking pistol rounds or shit like that. That's why you use your staff to get that for you. That way you can focus on the communication of Monacy, see like how he communicates there, and maybe I get the daily or weekly report from my analyst. Okay, Monacy is like, his utility damage is like fucking 56.5 average on a map where OP should have like fucking 250 or something, right? That's what I want from my analysts. So I can deal with like, Monacy thinking like, okay, maybe he's more defensive than I think he is, or maybe he needs to be more aggressive than he really is, and it suits him better. So I deal with that. I give him like, I am the one who prepares like more aggressive plays for him, right? Instead of dealing with the fucking anti-eco and if somebody was late on the fucking practice or some bullshit like that, right? And that's the question for the job and how for the coach and his job and how to deal with that stuff when it comes to Monacy. I personally don't know. I've never spoken to the kid, maybe twice. So I don't know him, and I don't know him, but Nico tells me that he was developing ever since Katowice till like maybe June, July. He was developing really fast. That's what I got from Nico. But after that, I didn't really see all that much impact from him, to be honest.
I think one thing I would ask you about is this. It sounds like another thing you think, I mean, obviously this will be in the coaching video as well, but we'll just tease it here. Sounds like another thing you think that's a flaw. And I know, by the way, in most other esports, like in League of Legends, this is the biggest flaw in the whole game. They do practice because you want to keep your job as a coach. You practice to win the next game. You don't practice to improve. You just try to keep your job and win the next game. And they're all doing that. So what you're talking about basically is you've got to also have like almost like a business plan for the players of the team. Like, here's how I'm going to get Monacy the way he needs to be. Here's how I'm going to get JKS in his role. And it might take months, right?
Yeah, definitely. What G2 have now, they have fucking months right now.
True.
When is the next meaningful event for them? It's Katowice, right? Like, okay, Blast is fine. We said it, nice money, a little bit of points, whatever, right? But the next big thing is going to be Katowice. It's going to be their Pro League. It's going to be the next major in Paris. And you have enough time to fix all that shit. The coaching staff is right now, that's a teaser for the next video. The coaching staff is 5 years behind than it should be right now. We are still stuck in 2017, 2018. We have smart minds when it comes to CSGO. Obviously, we have Blade and Zonic, and they're all so smart. There's like tier 2 coaches that are really smart as well when you talk to them, but they don't ever get the chance to kind of, get into the spotlight or anything, right? But the coaching itself, it needs to be taken to at least 3 levels above for us to have like able to develop players they need to be, because players are every generation is getting sharper and sharper and sharper. Remember Freiberg, for example, right? He was an entry, he was a aggressive player in Banana, and the height of his skill. And just imagine like Yekindar in Banana right now, how through generations the player got better and better and better and better, right? But the coaching also needs to get better and better and better and more developed, so we can have like the whole thing getting even, to the next level than it is right now. Coaching is slowing things down right now. I don't think it is being done the right way, but we'll talk about it in that special video that we're going to make about that. It should be interesting as well.
Sure. Right, I think what we'll do is we'll just wrap this one here and then we'll do the betting stuff. So, do you have any final words or a message on this particular topic, or someone you want to say hello to?
Say hello, no, but maybe to the G2 management. To tell them to get their shit together right now. They have enough time to fix their shit and try to, help Nico, the one of the all-time best players, to get where he needs to be, because, he hasn't won a tournament ever since he joined G2, and G2 hasn't won a tournament for 3 and 4 years or something like that. So I think that's a pretty bad, and I think it's a shame. I think they need to get their shit together and fix their flaws in the system and continue in the next season on the right path, if they want to, become what they want to be, and that's number 1, right?
This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Hades GOUD, Matt Pugnatio Rajcula, Adam Ochs, Animosity, Bot Pounder 420, Jensen Goh, Kovacevicd, Ord, Pacy, Tobias Bernasconi, Tosh, Torin, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my main man, Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Would you like to ask a question in one of those monthly AMAs where sometimes I roast people? Do you want teasers to find out who the guests are for upcoming shows and interviews I'm doing? Maybe you want to be part of one of those cool, lengthy esports discussions that I have. Well, if any of those perks sound tantalizing to you, put your money where your mouth is and join the Skrilluminati today, where? Via the Patreon link in the description box below.